In today's equity index futures markets, let's take a look at the S&P 500 future today as it's realizing a nice reversal today, holding the September lows, and I think bouncing off those September lows. It did hold them late last week, and I think we did see some renewed strength because were able to hold those September lows. And also, when you look at the price action, we did get it back above 3,300 currently, so just slightly above there. We did see them top out around 33.23, I think, but for the S&P 500 futures intraday, but still, nice 1% move higher here today to start the week. And when you look at some of the driving factors, I think you can point to a couple things. Strength overnight in the equity markets coming out of Asia, then into Europe, and I think it flowed into the United States. So I think that helped stabilize the markets for the time being. Also, the data points coming out of China, particularly the Caixin data, showing 6 months now of consecutive growth prospects or stronger numbers, a little bit better than expected as well. And I think that that's helping to support maybe some of the concerns, at least from a short-term perspective, regarding the economic activity. And so I think those were two of the catalysts why we did see some renewed strength today. Also, I think there was some selling at the end of the month last month. I think we did see some buying to start the month this month. And I think so you saw a little bit of that rotation continuing. So I think that's another factor why we did see some upside momentum here today. And when you look at some of the trends in place, it is interesting to point out that we are seeing, as I mentioned, that rotation taking place. And today, really the best performing futures markets for the equity index futures markets were the Russell futures. They were up quite over 2% actually today. And we did see the Dow futures up quite significantly. The S&P 500 futures up, have a nice day. The NASDAQ was a laggard. And again, that's that rotation trade that seems to be kind of continuing to manifest here as we move into the last quarter of the year. It has been taking place here for the last couple of months. And as we are seeing some relative strength in some of these other sectors and some of these other parts of the market and those futures markets that correspond to those parts of the markets, and seeing a little bit less outperformance and a little bit of underperformance when you look at the NASDAQ futures. Also, I want to point out that when you look at the volume levels in these futures, I'm telling you, those micro E-mini futures continuing to pick up traction. We're seeing some significant volume in those micro E-mini futures continuing to unfold. The NASDAQ futures, actually, it looks like almost there was 2-to-1 with the micro E-minis outpacing the NASDAQ E-mini futures. But also, even in the Russell, we're seeing a big pickup in activity there, the Dow micro E-mini futures as well. So continuing to see the evolution of the futures markets as we see these micro E-mini futures picking up volume across the board.